Howdy everybody. Sorry that there's going to be a lot of shadows in the shop, but that might actually make it easier. Today, I'm going to be showing you guys how I make my Kiridashi style blades. And I make several. Oh, hit the camera stand there. It's going to be a little tricky learning to film as I work, but I make several Kiridashi style blades. They're all westernized quite a bit in that a traditional Kiridashi, you don't have any what's the word, symmetry. It's like a chisel. It should be pretty well equally done on each side, that you squish it all to one side when you're done. You don't have a blade equally down the middle in any way like that, or like a modern day blade, or a western blade I should say, because there are still chisel blades in the west. But first couple hits doesn't really look like a whole lot's changing, but in the end we're going to end up with something that looks like that. Like I said, a traditional Kiridashi, it should be all down one side, very asymmetrical like a chisel. I make mine very symmetrical like a western style blade. I find that's just more multifunctional, get more jobs done. I already have a slight mishit on this one, so I'll have to step over to the grinder in a minute to fix that. It's just that little right at the end there. I don't think you can see it on camera very well. There's a boogered up spot. Has too high a risk of forming a cold shut. I would use either a file or a grinder to clean it up. The only power tool I use is a bench grinder. To me, it's a lot like an electric-powered millstone, electric-powered grinding wheel. So it's not all that modern. Otherwise, everything I have is man-powered. So not super. Yeah. I should have assumed that was an inevitability. Knocked you guys clean off the display there. So let me try to get you back on. Here we go. You're looking at the horn now. I gotta adjust that. That's flat. Come on now. I don't know what changed so drastically that it's not cooperating anymore, but there we go. Okay. Yeah, it's not great. I'll take a cut and figure that out. Okay, everybody. I should be back. I'm going to try to edit most of that out. I just take you guys with the hammer, take you guys flying, had to readjust. But back on. So right like this, put it over the edge and just slowly work it back. That's how I forge the point. It also slightly upsets the material, makes it thicker. So you're going to have to go back and forth between this motion, which I can normally hit a lot harder, but the camera's very much in the way. There we go. So from there, upsetting material, so I still have to go back this way, back and forth, until I can get it all straightened out the way I want. I don't know if I'm going to be able to really do it with the camera in the way, so maybe I'll have to cut it and make a move, but this right here is kind of what we're going for. Turn it that way, and then I work it back that way. Basically striking right on that edge, working straight back. And that's pushing material backwards, as well as, sorry, my scarf's getting in my mouth. So I'm pushing material backwards, and I'm pushing material downwards at the same time to make a point or a corner. You can see it starting to take shape there too. That one I've also kind of uglied up from holding it off the anvil too far, but working around filming, I guess mistakes get made. But yeah, I'm making two at once right now, which means there's going to be a lot of taking things out, putting things in, taking things out, putting things in. But yeah, in short, that's all there is to it. You just work it from one angle, work it from the other, keep it from getting too wide. Yeah, just back and forth, back and forth. I'm gonna make another cut. See you guys in a minute. Howdy, everybody. All right. Hopefully that worked. Had to set the phone down for a while, but right now we've got about the right shape, but it's crazy thick. So we're gonna start beveling. Which means I'm holding my anvil or my hammer at an angle, holding the piece at an angle. I'm squishing material so it will no longer be of one single consistent thickness, but it will start to thin down into an actual edge. This one's a little bit behind. It's been a little bit longer trying to fix up prior mistakes in it. Largely it's along the way. Oh, hit you guys again, I'm sorry. But yeah, bit by bit, that's how this job works. I have a bad habit of hitting steel when it's already cooled off too much. I know it's a bad habit. That's why I'm bringing it up to you guys. If you start smithing, don't hit the steel once it's getting cold. You're wasting energy. And it's harder on the steel if you're really cold. But like right where I'm at, I'm working on the edge. It's still glowing purplish on my screen. But even that's about as cold as I really should be doing a lot of moving material. This does lead to a common misunderstanding, though. People think you shouldn't hit things with low heat at all. You just control. Certain things should be done at low heat. Certain things should not. That's starting to take shape too. Alright, back to the better looking one. I can admit this one's coming out a lot better so far, but we'll see. That doesn't totally mean anything right off the bat. But there. Have that wonderful Kiradashi shape, but instead of being chiseled, if I were to lay it flat like this, so the bar is flat and hammer it down flat to the anvil, I get it like a chisel. That's not how I do it. I do them straight in line. So I'll do some finalizing in a minute, but we're about ready to cut this one off because these ones are going to be for a customer's order for throwing spikes. Back to this one that's still kind of coming along a little ugly. These things do happen. If things end up too ugly, I start over. But within reason, I find that fixing things and putting that extra effort in oftentimes makes me a better smith. It teaches me how to overcome an issue that I otherwise could have given up on. So oftentimes, things start looking a little ugly, I just keep at it. I'm very low budget, very low tech. I don't have a proper hot cut tool. I have an old chisel that I bought it's a rock chisel. I resharpen it now and then. It doesn't have to be very sharp for a hot cut tool. And it's getting all burred up, all beaten up, because I just throw it in my anvil party hole. It's not made for it, but it works. It's one of those things a lot of the time. A lot of things just work. You gotta accept that sometimes you don't have the right equipment. Just keep working, find a way. Never get anywhere if you just give up. Alright, because the metal's thinner, the ugly one has heated up first. Tap, tap, tap. Tap, tap, tap. Alright. Big enough now. Yeah, I have another one of what I'm making pre-built sitting to my side. I don't make anything exact. I don't make exact copies time and time again. But I do try to make them close, especially for the throwing knives. And these are going to be throwing spikes, throwing knives, whatever you like to call them. So I do got to make these a little bit close. So estimate about where I want to cut it. I lay it next to my cutting tool. Yeah, about there looks good. Now I have the whole thing's lit up hot much farther down. So right about to where I think is perfect. Maybe just a little more. Give it a good hit. And that good hit is to set a notch. Because I actually don't like to stand on that side of the anvil while I'm working. When I cut things, usually it flies in that direction if I hit too hard. And I've been hit in the face with red hot metal a couple times. That's why I keep a beard. So, you know, you find your comfy ways to work. But for me, I don't like to stand there. Alright, work this part down a little. Make sure that looks nice. This is a throwing spike. Theoretically, someone might throw it into something soft like hay. So I try to thin it out a little. And it also gets set nice and far in to heat up deep inside. Okay, nice and hot. And then I rub it back and forth until I feel the notch catch, wiggle it, make sure it's in the notch, and hit it hard again. Oh, cut it all the way through. I normally try to be a little bit more delicate and don't cut it all the way through right away. Gives me a little bit extra control when I finalize cutting it off, but there we go. There's the blank. Looking pretty nice. I can do a number of things with that, but because I have two of these to make for an order, I'm instead going to leave this until I cut off the next one to make sure at the very least the two for this order can come out as close to identical as possible. So again, I lay that next to the hot cut tool, right about in the exact spot of the cut. Leave it about the exact spot that I need it for the cut. Now how's this looking? Need to heat it up a little farther down. In the meantime, part of why I wanted to show this off was also to show off just how wide you can actually get with such a small piece of metal. Sure, these still aren't large knives by any means, but you don't need to buy a huge chunk of steel right off the bat. I think this is only like, I don't know, 5/16 or so. Maybe not exact, but something around that size. It's not a huge bar of metal. And you can still make some pretty decent sized definitely quite popular blades with this small size. Something that came as a surprise to me because I came into blacksmithing from a very historical outlook. But modern day smithing, your main expense is not material anymore. It is manpower. The amount of time you put into each piece, the amount of care that goes into each piece. So keep that in mind. You can save a lot more money buying smaller sizes in the early stages to learn the basics. I'm gonna make a cut, keep cutting steel, keep shaping things up. I'll be back in a minute. See y'all then. Alright, we're back. Now we're gonna start forging a point. At this point I shouldn't be hitting it anymore. Not because that's a danger point for the steel, but because I should be working while it's hot. Like I said, it's more efficient. I'm missing because I'm worried about hitting the camera. I do apologize, everyone. Right there, that's called a miss hit. I don't know how quick. Yeah, you can see that clear on the camera. That's a miss hit. So I squished that material off the side. I could try to forge that back in. There's a very high likelihood that I'll make a cold shut if I do. Cold shut looks like a crack. It's only on the surface, but they're ugly. So I'll probably take that to the grinder here in a minute, off camera, and clean it up. Right here. Don't know that I'll finish this project in this video, but I also have an order for an Awl Flint and steel striker. So I need to start forging this out into a spike as well. This one was the bar we just cut the last knife off of. So there's kind of a gnarly end on there that'll also make cold shuts. So that one will also go to the grinder a bit later. Going back to the one that we started with. This one doesn't have the cold shut. A better taught smith can do this job much quicker, much more efficiently. I'm no expert on what I'm doing wrong, but I do know what I do still works. So I'm not making an effort to correct it right now. But certainly if you can get educated by a proper smith that can show you a better way, I assure you my way is not the better way for drawing out material. Just the way I do it because I don't know any better. Alright. And for the sake of the video, I'm going to attempt, without the grinder, to gently tap it back in. It does not look like I made a cold shut. If I did, it's going to be shallow, so I'll grind it out again later. But just have to very carefully tap it back in without actually squishing any material over itself. You get your material to fold over itself, like, imagine that's the material, and another piece folds over the top. You have that crease. If you're not hitting forge welding temps, that will never seal shut, and you'll end up with a cold shut or a crack. Back to this one. Drawing it out. All the weird material from the cut is towards the end, so I'll grind off all that material here in a minute. But while I'm on camera, I'll draw it out some more, give you guys a little bit of an idea how this process goes. Here. first, I'm just focused on actually getting the material stretched to the dimensions I want. But once it starts looking like it's close, then I'll actually want to make things consistent, clean, and attractive looking. Which is actually better done at lower heats. At high heats, you oftentimes hit too hard and it squishes it worse. So lower heats are better for straightening and cleaning up. Spike, the awl. In my brain I keep calling it the spike because it's just a single point, but the others are sold as the spike, so I might be making things confusing on everyone. Alright, right there, there's a little bit of metal hanging off the side. If I keep forging that, I'll make a cold shut. So, while it would only be aesthetic, I don't want to give something that problematic to a customer. So I'm gonna take that to the grinder. I'm making a cut here. See y'all in a minute. All right, everybody, we're getting closer. Things are looking nicer, looking better. Nice and straight, nice and smooth. Just taking my time, making sure everything's looking good. Now, I take out my finished one. I compare. This one's a little chunkier than the first one I made, so I'm going to thin it slightly. And here's back to the Awl fire steel. Get a point on it. And all of these can be made sharper at customer request. I always make them what I would call sharp, but not anywhere near a final product, because I know everyone has a different level of sharpness they like. So I just try to get a good product out there. People can touch it up to their liking. But for a fire steel that's also going to be a awl, that is taking shape quite nicely. Looks quite nice to me. Comparing the size. The spike is actually the same size, so I only brought the spike out. So pretty comparable in size. Cut enough material off it to make a loop. I'm going to cut it quite a bit longer than it looks like I might need. So that goes back in the forge. We're going to pull out one of them. All that forging has made sure to unstraighten a lot of things that were once straight. So we're going to make sure that that bevel is nice in the middle, nice and symmetrical. Gotta get it right here, because anything past these next couple steps, and it's going to be really hard to alter things from here on out. So yeah, you'll hear me kind of do a lot more for a minute, because I'm focused on the product, making sure that it's all very, very, very straight. All right. Now I now believe. Never mind, a couple more hits. It's easier to straighten at a lower heat too. You have more control. Alright, I now believe that that looks pretty good. Whoa. Turned inside the grip. Nearly Drop it on my beard. Close. You can only hit it a little bit more. Make sure that edge is straight too. Got a lot of little details to get everything nice. Blade is straight on to me, and now make sure that spike is straight on. Alright, this spike is on its final touches. Thin it out, thin it out. Make sure it's nice and square. Yep, nice and square. Touch up anything that's not square. Nice and square. Now, same thing as before, I'm going to flip it around and get that blade really, really straight on. Looks like the spike is nice and hot for the cutting process. Get it all cut down into a workable piece. Right there, that's going to be my notch. Oh, sorry, right there. You can see it. Working on such a short piece of metal, it's getting real hot to hold without tongs. So I'm going to have to get it hot and cut it off in one heat now, or else it's going to be a problem. My anvil is slowly scooting away on you guys. Let me just reposition it. I need to lock it down better one day. That's why it rings so bad. It's not anchored down hard. Okay. Next piece coming out. Alright. You can already see I need to hit it here. And then hit it back. It's not only that I have to make sure the spike is straight, but I have to make sure the spike is straight and in line with the rest. Okay. Alright. That looks really, really good. However, I've just realized I don't have everything perfectly square overall. But I have an easy fix for that because this one has a round shank. I can twist it ever so slightly and straighten it back out. And this one, I have to get straight again. The other one. Like I said, a lot of kind of moments with this. Because I focus entirely on making sure I get it straight. Tricky with these is even if your blade's very straight, if there's any bend down by the handle or by the shank, I guess before I have to call it, that will be easy to miss, but make quite a difference. Easy to miss, quite a difference in actually being straight. It gets easier and easier to make minor adjustments the colder it gets. The material moves so much slower when it's cooled off. That one's got a very straight on blade now. I'll go back to the tail. But before I do, straight back to this. back to what I was saying before, I don't normally cut them through. I cut them most of the way through. Sometimes I'll do a chip on each side to really get it all together thin enough. But I then just twist it back and forth. And as it cools especially, the metal struggles to deal with this and just tears right off. Yep, there we go, tears right off. So I don't have to worry about things flying all over. Now, again, I'm left with a kind of raggedy end, but I'll flatten it first and then take it to the grinder. I did what I mentioned about how it wasn't straight and square. I'm just grabbing it with 2 different sets of tongs as high up on the flat spots as I can. I'm actually rotating in this round area, but you won't see a twist because it's rounded. The piece has already cooled off too much because I was showing you guys, but you might get the idea. Right now the blade is flat, but the actual square on the end is just slightly crooked. It's an easy fix. So, man, we're up to 32 minutes. I might be able to cut this down, I might not. Whether I can cut it down or not. Hopefully this video has taught you guys some things. Hopefully it's given you some ideas. As people who are beginners and self-taught like me, you know, remember, you might not be the best smith in the world. You might not have all the techniques that a real, you know, educated smith might have. But as long as you can go out there, understand the metal, understand what it takes to make a high-quality piece of equipment, and actually go out and make something beautiful, functional, durable, all those good qualities, maybe it doesn't matter so much if everything is done 100% perfectly, efficiently, or traditional. Get out there and start doing. Get out there and start making. If this is your dream, make it happen. Make your dream a reality. It will never happen if you're too worried about not having a teacher or not having the right information. I'm going to take this, I'm going to get it back up to heat. I have a big bucket of dirt, just standard soil, fluffed up. I'm going to bury it in there to do what's called annealing. Annealing lets it cool off fairly slowly. Slower the better, really, in most cases. So you cool things very slowly, and it creates a very calm, very simple type of crystalline structure within the steel. And that makes it so that it doesn't change its shape when you harden it. When you harden it otherwise, things oftentimes kind of go crazy. So, making sure things get nice and straight at this stage, getting everything finalized, because once you anneal, you don't change anything. The annealing is sort of telling yourself that project is as good as it's going to get, and you're accepting you can no longer change it. So every change you want to make is done before annealing. Annealing also softens it to the absolute limit. There we go. Maybe even a little bit too warm for annealing, but not by much. You can get it to the point that it's no longer magnetic, or just below that. And once it's nice and hot, like I said, I stick it right in soil, light fluffy soil. that it's very dry, absolutely as dry as I can get that soil, and it cools off very slowly. Now for this, I start off by flattening the edge a little bit. Usually by here I'm losing a lot of my heat. I don't want to remove too much material because this is the whole striker. So from here I put it back in the forge, get it hot again. Here's the next one that I have, well, I was going to say annealed, but now that I've looked at it, I'm not happy with it. So instead of calling this annealed, I'm gonna touch it up one last time. Once you anneal it, the next step is hardening. You can't change a thing. Also, if you're going to be doing any work on drilling or filing or anything like that, you want to do it while it's annealed. While this is hot, I'm going to put it half on, half off the anvil. I know you can't see it terribly well, but I'll show you what it does. Alright, that sort of makes that tight bite or edge right there. That's where I'm going to fold it here in a minute. But first, I'm going to want to forge it out a little more, a little thinner. The more I do, the longer that tag gets. And I need it pretty long. I also forge it on the sides because I like it to be bigger in the back than the front. Sometimes some people don't like how that looks. I could always fulfill a request to do it differently, but that's certainly how I prefer it, and that's how I do it. But yeah, looking at it again at a cooler heat, that's definitely too thick still, so I can thin it some more. This is ready, it doesn't stick to a magnet. I'm going to put it in, same sand, same earth. It's not really sand, I don't really have sand. I have clay, but it's light, fluffy, dry. A lot of air pockets. Things cool very slowly in it. And another thing that I can teach for quenching, you want your quench water to be around boiling or just under. So I keep a bunch of mild steel around to get it really hot, and I drop it in the water in order to heat the water up. So I'm going to pause things, finish things up, and get ready for the quench. So I'm running out of filming time. So I'll see you all in a minute. Alright everybody, time for the quench. I don't have a ton of water right now. Look at such little slate, you don't need a ton. By now. Cut into the metal, quench it the rest of the way. Alright, here's the first one. Everything else still heating up, or still tempering. I mean still annealing. But there's the first one ready for grinding. Nice and straight. Pretty good, I do say so. Pretty straight. Good enough as a work knife, good enough as a throwing knife. Of course, these will all be going inside for tempering after this. So, yeah, I will go ahead and work on the next one. My trick for this is I get the back hot first, so that when I go to heat up that thin edge, that edge tends to be really quick to heat up. By doing it this way, I don't get a really hot edge and a really cool spine. It messes up the heat treat if you're not careful. This way I can get it all pretty consistently hot. As long as I watch it, as long as I turn it. right time. Yep, and here we go. Alright. Gauge metal. Now harden the rest of it off. If there's ever a time of which you are going to harden a blade, and for some strange reason it comes out of the quench and the file still bites in like it's soft, you should always restart your annealing process to take the stress and damage out of the blade again. But after you've done that, you should always feel free to start on the next step. Even if a failure isn't truly a failure, you just have to start over. Now it does introduce stresses to the blade every single time. So if you're not careful, that continual quenching will break it. But by annealing and trying again, generally you're alright. Right there we've managed to harden the two throwing spikes. They're of course not hardened to a through degree. I try to keep the meat in the middle soft to soak up impact, and they are going to be tempered next, soft, so that they don't crack. But we've got one last thing to harden, so I'm not finishing up this video until I can harden it. I have about 10 minutes of film left. We're just going to have to hope we get there in time. Go. This one's a fire steel, so I get the whole thing nice and hot. There we go. I can turn off the forge now. Show the camera. Yep, nice awl-shaped fire steel. Make sure it still stays the file. Yep. Nothing wrong with that hardening job. Some people do not temper their fire steels. I always temper mine lightly. But here we go. Here's that spike-shaped or awl fire steel. Get out of my own way here. But yeah, nice square awl, nice big loop for you to hang it off of. It's a nice design. Very nice overall. What I am going to do with it off camera is I'm going to anneal just that bail, just that loop as much as I can. Make sure that I get my tongs nice and cool. My forge is off, but it's still glowing at well over 1,000 degrees. So I'm going to hold the actual striking and pointing surface in the tongs, but I'm going to rest that big bail onto the hot brickwork. And by doing so, it should soften it again. Can't do that for very long or for very much, but it does give me some degree of control in heat treating. But I'll see you guys in another video as soon as I can. Hope you enjoyed this one. Hope you learned something. Have a great day, everybody, and I'll see you again. Goodbye.